March 31, 2010. Independence, Missouri, a quiet town where neighbors waved hello, families gathered in churches every Sunday, and life seemed as peaceful as it could be. But that day, the calm was shattered. Randy Stone, a devoted husband, father, and respected businessman, was found lifeless in his office, a bullet ending a life so deeply rooted in his community. At first glance, it seemed unthinkable. Who would want to harm a man so universally loved? However, when detectives began to put together the scenario, they uncovered a trail of betrayal, manipulation, and a forbidden relationship that had been hidden in plain sight. The truth wasn't just shocking, it was devastating. A pastor, a wife, and a web of secrets that led to murder. What led to this unimaginable crime? And how did the person everyone trusted the most become the center of it all? This is the story of Randy Stone, the husband whose life ended too soon, and the betrayal that rocked an entire community. Independence, Missouri, a community where neighbors exchanged greetings, families gathered for church services, and life moved at a gentle pace. Among its residents was Randy Stone, a former Marine who had built a successful insurance business. Known for his unwavering dedication, Randy was not only a hard-working professional but also a devoted family man, deeply involved in his local church. By his side was Teresa Stone, his wife of 19 years. They had known each other since childhood but reconnected after Randy's military service. Together, they had 2 children and were considered the epitome of a loving couple. Teresa was active in the church community, singing in the choir and assisting in the kitchen. Central to their spiritual lives was Pastor David Love of New Hope Baptist Church. Charismatic and trusted, Pastor Love was more than just a religious leader, he was Randy's best friend and spiritual advisor. The bond between the Stone family and Pastor Love appeared unbreakable, with frequent visits and shared moments that reinforced their close relationship. To the outside world, Randy and Teresa's marriage seemed idyllic. Their shared faith and active participation in church activities painted a picture of unity and devotion. Pastor Love's close relationship with the Stone family only added to this perception, as he often provided guidance and support, further intertwining their lives. However, beneath the surface, complexities existed that few could have imagined. The close bond between Pastor Love and Teresa Stone was not merely spiritual. Unbeknownst to Randy in the congregation, Teresa and Pastor Love had been engaged in a clandestine affair for nearly a decade. They communicated secretly using disposable cell phones and emails, meticulously hiding their relationship from their spouses and the community. This hidden relationship added layers of deception to the seemingly perfect lives they led. The affair not only betrayed Randy's trust but also violated the moral and ethical standards that Pastor Love was expected to uphold. The discovery of this affair would later play a crucial role in unraveling the truth behind Randy Stone's untimely death, revealing a web of lies and betrayal that shocked the entire community. March 31, 2010, began as an ordinary day in Independence, Missouri. Randy Stone arrived at his insurance office, as he did every morning, ready to tackle another day of work. The office, nestled in a familiar neighborhood, was a place Randy had built from the ground up, a testament to his hard work and dedication. But by mid-afternoon, tragedy struck. Randy was found slumped over his desk, lifeless, with a gunshot wound to his head. It was one of his colleagues who made the grim discovery, walking into what should have been an ordinary workday only to be confronted with a scene of devastation. The news spread quickly, and shock rippled through the tight-knit community. Independence had always been a peaceful place, and Randy was a man deeply respected by all who knew him. The question on everyone's mind was clear: who would want to harm Randy Stone? As investigators arrived at the scene, they began piecing together the moments leading up to Randy's death. His desk held the ordinary trappings of a busy day, an unfinished to-do list that detailed errands he planned to run and notes about church activities. Everything seemed normal, except for the glaring tragedy that had unfolded. Initially, the police considered the possibility of a robbery gone wrong. It was a simple theory, perhaps someone had broken in, panicked, and fled. But as they examined the office, doubts began to surface. There were no signs of forced entry. No valuables were missing. Randy's wallet and personal items were untouched. The lack of evidence supporting a robbery left investigators with more questions than answers. Randy's life seemed devoid of conflict, a devoted husband, a successful businessman, and a man of faith. It made the circumstances of his death all the more baffling. The early hours of the investigation only deepened the mystery. Detectives began interviewing those closest to Randy, looking for any clues that could explain what had happened. What they would eventually uncover would shock not only the investigators but an entire community that had no idea of the secrets lurking beneath the surface. Detectives began their investigation into Randy Stone's death with the methodical precision required in such a baffling case. The first thing they noticed was the absence of typical signs of a robbery. There was no forced entry into the office. Randy's belongings, including his wallet, phone, and personal items, were untouched. Even the cash drawer remained undisturbed. This immediately ruled out the idea of a robbery gone wrong. Investigators turned their attention to Randy's life. Interviews with his family, friends, and colleagues painted a picture of a man who was well-loved and deeply respected. Randy was described as kind, generous, and devoted to his faith. He had no known enemies and no recent conflicts that could explain the motive for such a brutal crime. The lack of clear suspects made the case even more perplexing, and detectives knew they needed to look deeper. As they examined Randy's personal life, one detail began to stand out: his wife, Teresa Stone. While others around her were visibly shaken by the loss, Teresa's behavior seemed unusual. She appeared calm, detached, and lacked the emotional responses typically expected from someone mourning the sudden loss of a spouse. Detectives couldn't ignore this discrepancy, and Teresa quickly became a person of interest in the investigation. It didn't take long for the investigation to reveal a shocking secret. Through interviews and a closer examination of Teresa's life, detectives discovered that she had been involved in a long-term affair with Pastor David Love. The affair had reportedly lasted nearly a decade, hidden from both Randy and the congregation. Detectives uncovered text messages, emails, and phone call records that documented the clandestine relationship. Further scrutiny revealed that Pastor Love, who had been a close friend of the Stone family and a trusted leader in their church, had more than just a spiritual connection to Teresa. Investigators discovered that he had unrestricted access to Randy's office, a detail that now carried significant weight. More alarmingly, they found that Pastor Love owned a firearm matching the caliber of the bullet that killed Randy. As these pieces of evidence began to align, detectives grew increasingly suspicious of both Teresa and Pastor Love. They focused their efforts on unraveling the depth of their involvement in Randy's death. The investigation revealed that Teresa and David Love had been communicating frequently in the days leading up to the murder, using disposable cell phones to conceal their affair and any plans they might have been making. The growing body of evidence began to tarnish Pastor Love's reputation within the community. His public persona as a charismatic and trustworthy spiritual leader began to crumble as details of the affair and his potential connection to Randy's murder came to light. Congregants who once admired him were now questioning everything they believed about their pastor. Randy's colleagues and friends, who were initially shocked and grief-stricken by his death, now found themselves reliving their interactions with both Teresa and Pastor Love. Emotional interviews captured their disbelief as they recounted how close the Stone family and Pastor Love had been, never suspecting the betrayal that was unfolding behind closed doors. One particularly damning piece of evidence came in the form of phone records. On the day of Randy's murder, there were multiple calls and messages exchanged between Teresa and Pastor Love. These communications raised even more questions about their possible involvement and motives. Detectives also learned of prior incidents where Randy had expressed concerns about his relationship with Teresa. Friends revealed that Randy had begun to notice changes in her behavior, though he never suspected the depth of her betrayal. This information, coupled with the affair and the mounting evidence against Pastor Love, painted a clearer picture of the events leading up to Randy's death. As the investigation progressed, the narrative of the case shifted dramatically. What had initially seemed like an inexplicable tragedy now appeared to be the result of a calculated plan, born out of betrayal and a forbidden relationship. The trusted pastor, who had once been a source of guidance and comfort to the Stone family, was now at the center of a murder investigation. The unraveling of this case was as heartbreaking as it was shocking. Each new revelation brought a mixture of anger, disbelief, and grief to those who had loved and respected Randy. The betrayal by those closest to him, his wife and his trusted friend, added layers of tragedy to an already devastating loss. As investigators closed in, the pressure mounted on Teresa Stone and Pastor David Love. What began as suspicion grew into undeniable evidence, and soon, the truth came to light. Teresa Stone, under interrogation, confessed to her role in the murder of her husband, Randy. It was a revelation that stunned not only the detectives but the entire community. Teresa's confession unveiled chilling details about a long-running affair with Pastor Love, one that had spanned nearly a decade. She admitted that their relationship was more than just a lapse in judgment, it was a partnership that led to a cold and calculated plan to end Randy's life. For them, Randy's murder was the only way to remove the obstacle that stood between them and the life they envisioned together. In her confession, Teresa recounted how the plan was devised. Pastor Love, using his position of trust and access to the family, assured Teresa that everything would go smoothly. Together, they believed they could manipulate the situation and emerge without suspicion. Randy was the only thing standing in their way, and for them, his death was the solution. The case went to trial, and what unfolded in the courtroom was nothing short of heartbreaking. Randy's family and friends filled the seats, searching for answers, closure, and justice. Testimonies from those closest to Randy painted a picture of a man who deserved none of the betrayal he endured. His children, now grappling with the loss of their father and the truth about their mother, shared their grief and pain, leaving many in the courtroom in tears. Teresa's breakdown on the stand became a pivotal moment in the trial. As she recounted her involvement in the plot, the weight of her actions seemed to finally settle upon her. She admitted to helping orchestrate her husband's murder and implicated Pastor Love as the mastermind behind the crime. Her words were damning, and the courtroom fell silent as she revealed how deeply intertwined she and the pastor had been. The community watched in disbelief as Pastor Love's polished image crumbled before their eyes. A man once seen as a spiritual leader, a beacon of morality, was exposed as a manipulative killer. The evidence against him, phone records, emails, and the weapon tied to the crime, was overwhelming. His calm demeanor throughout the trial only served to deepen the betrayal felt by those who had placed their faith in him. The testimonies of Randy's family and friends added emotional depth to the trial. They spoke of a man who loved his family, who dedicated himself to his community and his church. Their words highlighted the tragedy of a life taken too soon and the ripple effect of loss that spread through the community. Prosecutors presented their case with precision, detailing how Pastor Love and Teresa had conspired to carry out their plan. They painted a vivid picture of the betrayal and greed that led to Randy's murder, leaving no doubt about the guilt of both defendants. Throughout the trial, dramatized reenactments of the events leading up to Randy's death helped the jury and those watching understand the gravity of the crime. Footage of Teresa's confession, combined with the physical evidence and testimonies, created a case that was impossible to refute. As the trial came to a close, the weight of the evidence and the emotional testimonies left a lasting impact on everyone involved. The truth about Randy's murder was laid bare, and the community was left to grapple with the realization that those they trusted most were capable of such betrayal. The trial was not merely a judicial procedure, it was a reckoning. It brought closure to Randy's family, who had endured not only the loss of a beloved husband and father but also the shattering of their trust in the people they once held dear. The verdict was clear: justice for Randy would be served, but the scars left behind would take far longer to heal. The courtroom's final verdict marked the end of a trial that had captured the attention of Independence, Missouri, and beyond. Teresa Stone, who had confessed to her role in the murder of her husband, was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Her involvement in the planning and execution of the crime left no room for leniency, despite her admission of guilt. The weight of her actions, betraying the man she had been married to for nearly 2 decades, was undeniable. For Pastor David Love, the man who had once been a trusted spiritual leader, the sentence was much harsher. Convicted of first-degree murder, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His carefully constructed facade of morality and leadership had crumbled under the weight of the evidence. The man who had stood in the pulpit, guiding his congregation, was now condemned for orchestrating a brutal and selfish act. The sentences brought some measure of justice, but the aftermath of the case extended far beyond the courtroom. Randy Stone's death left a void in the lives of his family and community that could never truly be filled. His children, now forced to navigate life without their father, carried the burden of grief alongside the painful truth about their mother's betrayal. The scars left by their loss were both emotional and permanent, altering the trajectory of their lives forever. In the wider community, the impact of Randy's death and the revelations surrounding it were profound. The church, once a place of unity and faith, was shaken to its core. Congregants struggled to reconcile the actions of a man they had trusted so deeply. Pastor Love's betrayal of his position as a spiritual guide left many questioning their faith and their ability to trust others. Attendance at the church dwindled as members sought solace elsewhere, unable to face the memories of the tragedy that had unfolded in their midst. The community of Independence, Missouri, known for its close-knit and peaceful nature, was left grappling with the knowledge that such darkness could exist so close to home. Neighbors who had admired the Stone family and respected Pastor Love found themselves questioning their own judgment and the people around them. The ripple effects of Randy's murder extended far beyond the walls of his office or the courtroom, touching every corner of the town. Reflecting on the case, one cannot ignore the devastating consequences of betrayal and deceit. The actions of Teresa Stone and David Love not only destroyed Randy's life but also tore apart a family and a community. Their selfishness and disregard for the sanctity of trust serve as a sobering reminder of the damage that can be inflicted when individuals put their desires above all else. This case also highlighted the harsh reality that even those who appear to be pillars of morality can harbor dark secrets. Pastor Love's ability to mask his intentions and manipulate those around him stands as a cautionary tale about the importance of discernment and accountability, even in places of trust. As the community continued to heal, Randy's legacy as a devoted husband, father, and friend endured. His life, though cut tragically short, served as a reminder of the goodness and integrity that can exist in the face of betrayal. For his family and friends, the memory of his kindness and strength provided a source of comfort as they sought to rebuild their lives. This case, with all its heartbreak and revelations, stands as a stark reminder of how easily trust can be shattered and the lasting pain that follows. In the words of one member of the community, "It's not just the loss of Randy we grieve, but the loss of innocence in believing that some people are beyond reproach." In the end, the story of Randy Stone is a testament to the fragility of trust and the enduring strength of those left to carry on in its absence. The case of Randy Stone is one that leaves us with many questions about trust, betrayal, and the devastating consequences of deceit. It forces us to confront the harsh reality that even those we hold closest can sometimes harbor secrets capable of destroying everything. What are your thoughts on this case? Could there have been warning signs that might have prevented this tragedy, or was this betrayal so deeply concealed that it was impossible to see coming? Do you believe justice was served in the sentencing of Teresa Stone and Pastor David Love, or do you think the punishment could have been different? We'd love to hear your opinions and reflections on this case. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Share your perspective, your questions, and your reactions. This is a space for open and respectful dialogue about the complexities of human behavior and the consequences of our choices. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to show your support to like it and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you true crime stories that examine the events, choices, and circumstances behind these impactful cases. And if you're interested in exploring more stories like this one, check out our other videos where we uncover the details of cases that have shocked communities, exposed hidden truths, and reminded us all of the fragility of trust. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.